Hello.
Hi,
Hi, Ellen. How are you?
very good. You're looking so cool over there. I love your glasses. I know I told you that earlier today, but I really like them. Anyway, thanks for your time this afternoon and joining us for this session. I was really excited about it. So maybe before we go into the hard questions, tell us about you. Like who's Francine Beppu, so that our audience can get to know you a little bit better.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me today. Just to provide a brief personal background, I was actually born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii. I grew up in Nu'uanu in Dowsett. I'm the fourth generation in Hawaii from my father's side, and first generation on my mother's. My mother's from Japan. So, growing up here after graduating from high school, as Ellen mentioned, I moved to New York City. I graduated from NYU. I went to Stern. I double majored in marketing and international business. I also have a certificate of concentration in entertainment, media, and technology. And what's interesting is a lot of my friends or people I talk to say that, they don't really know what they're going to do after college, but somehow the stars aligned. And, my first real full-time job out of college, I think as well that you mentioned, was as a technology consultant for Sony Electronics, which I feel completely blessed that I had that opportunity, and it really got my feet wet with sparking my curiosity and interest in emerging consumer tech. And after that role, I moved on to Viacom, where I joined the team that launched Logo. Logo is the first LGBTQ network that's ever launched on television, where, in 2000, I think that was 2006, I'm aging myself a bit here. Um, we grew from 0 to 30 million in terms of audience and subscribers when I left. And I moved to LA in 2008. So I was in New York for 8 years, moved to LA 2008, where I was recruited by a Japanese entertainment company called Tsutaya, part of the Culture Convenience Club. And they're the largest entertainment company in terms of retail franchisees. They have 1,500 stores across Japan. 90% of those are franchised. They mainly focus in music, movies, books, and games. Um, yeah, so a lot of media experience. I've seen a lot of shifts in the way that entertainment is consumed, and I'm very passionate about new technologies and the way entertainment is delivered. So.
Awesome. So you're currently with NMG Network. We'll go into it in more detail, but what is NMG Network and your role there as the network strategy director? What does that mean?
Sure. So NMG Network was founded right in here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Our founders, Jason Catanella, in 2009. He started with a free publication called the Chinatown newspaper. And then he partnered with Lisa Yamada-san, who had Flux Hawaii at the time. And those were magazines, print publications. That grew. I joined the team in 2017, where, they expanded their product offerings to include television and video content. So they acquired a company called Visitor Video, which provides in-room hospitality media. Are you familiar with the hotel channel where you turn it on and it's like, welcome to the spa, here's the food and beverage, but we're kind of completely giving that a facelift. And at the core, we're storytellers that tell meaningful stories about the people, the culture, the art, giving people a sense of place um, in beautiful cinematic content across channels and platforms.
Awesome. We will go to that in detail later, but kind of just, bringing it back to where it all started. We want to talk about your career, and this is the point of, the session as well. You talked about Sony and feeling blessed that you got your career journey started out at Sony. But maybe taking us a step further back, like why was Sony like a company that you had always wanted to work for? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up with a lot of Sony products. I remember having a Walkman and a CD. You remember those, right?
Yep.
Cassette tapes. They were all Sony. Our television, I was a big consumer of TV growing up. And what really intrigued me about that position was I was brought on board. Again, this is, you know, really an amazing opportunity. It was when Mr. Ide was CEO, and he, went back in 2000 to the roots of what Sony was founded on, and that was investing R&D and investing in the best products for consumer electronics. And so at that time, Sony Qualia was the line. We launched 7 products under that line. It was a luxury line of electronic products. And we had the first 1080p home theater SXRD projectors. Those were $30,000. We had the first 42-inch LCDs, full 1080p. Those were $15,000. So again, these weren't for the everyday consumer, but they were amazing products at the time. And around that time too, there was the whole Blu-ray and HD DVD format.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if a lot of people were born in that time, but
Yeah, I remember. I mean, we are around the same age, so I clearly remember what you're talking about. So, have you always been interested in the media and entertainment industries, or I mean, Sony was kind of like intersection of media, entertainment, technology, consumer electronics. Was that always your interest, and how do you position yourself for the job then? Was it because of certain qualities you had, or?
Sure. So again, it was such a blessing and a privilege to be able to, learn from my peers and the institutions and my professors that, in college at NYU, Stern was a great background and built the foundation for success. And, I still remember a lot of lessons during that time, but definitely, I was very interested in technology. I was a bit of a gamer growing up. I'm an only child. So I used to subscribe to GamePro magazine, and I had, the Nintendo, the Genesis, the NES, the Super Nintendo. I had all the gaming consoles, and I guess that was pretty much the start of my interest in gaming and video games and technology. And in my adolescent years, I was like glued to MTV. I would watch, all the shows, all the music videos. I was very into pop culture and music. And so growing up, it was always my dream to work at MTV Networks. And, a classmate of mine, one of my best friends from college, was working there at the time, and she encouraged me to apply for the position, which I ended up taking. And that was in 2006.
Oh, so you work for MTV too?
Yeah, so under the Viacom, well, now it's the
Oh,
CBS
okay.
Viacom, MTV Networks, and then under MTV Networks, you
Yeah.
have VH1, Comedy Central, BET, and at that time, Logo, which was a new network with it, the large conglomerate.
I see. What were you doing over at MTV Networks?
Well, that was pretty much at the beginning of my career. So I started off, at the bottom. I mean, during college, I had internships,
Yeah.
finance internships. But, when I started, got my feet wet in media, I was started as an assistant, then a coordinator, then a planner. And then I was working cross-functionally between ad sales and integrated marketing a little part. And so I just loved being in a creative environment and kind of, being able to liaison between the different departments and really understanding how a network runs during that time.
Mm-hmm. So, with this whole pandemic, there's all these conversations about, people coming back to Hawaii, and so you came back way before the pandemic happened. But what brought you back to Hawaii? What was the motivation?
I think maybe we talked about this like years ago, but it was not a planned move. Honestly, like I had the flexibility at that time of working remotely. I just co-founded a company with my former boss, who was in Japan, and unfortunately, my ex's mother had a stroke. So I flew to Hawaii for an extended amount of time, left all my things in Los Angeles, and through the powers that be, I reconnected with a former colleague of mine that I used to work with previously at MTV Networks, and she had told me, and mind you, she grew up in Baltimore. She found me on social media or something. We reconnected. It turned out she was living here working for KHON, and so she was
Mhm.
excited. There was a position available. She said, you have to meet my boss. You guys will hit it off, and we certainly did.
That's where I
You know,
met
I
you, right? The first time.
yes, yes, correct. And the rest is history, and that's how I ended up here 7 years later.
So, I mean, we can expect that you're going to stay on, right? No plans to leave the islands anytime soon, right?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Hawaii will always be my home. I still actually have a few things in LA, but I think I feel very blessed and grateful for the ability to be able to call Hawaii home and my home base, but also having the flexibility of working with companies and clients on the mainland U.S. and other parts of the world globally in my current position as well.
Hmm. So, I mean, I think the question I get most, working for HTDC, people reaching out, they ask us, what are some of, do you have any advice for us in terms of seeking jobs, here in Hawaii, especially if I'm not from here, or I plan to move home, what should I expect, right? So two, I would say, probably sets of questions that I get the most often. So for
Mhm.
yourself, everything kind of found a place, but I know you have friends coming back home as well and trying to regrow their roots here. Do you have any advice for them in terms of job seeking or how they can position themselves or?
Sure. I think pre-COVID, maybe we would have seen a bit more, I guess, a more challenging environment to seek opportunities here, calling this your home base. But I think it uncovered our eyes into this whole new concept of being able to work wherever you are. And I believe technology enables that up to a point, depending on what type of position, what the job function entails. But anyone that is currently searching for a position, I would say, just maintain those relationships, because you never know, right? My reason for being able to live here is actually because I remained in contact and established these authentic friendships with my former colleagues that last. And so I think you know in any field, it's important to reach out to the people, your mentors, your colleagues, um, you know the people that you may have gone to high school with or college with, and just talk to as many people as you can, and consistently think about your goals and your dream job. And information is at your fingertips now, right? With free learning
Mhm.
classes and everything, just build that skill set, create goals, and make sure you're aligning your skills and your experience, and you're actually talking to people in those industries. And the more you talk about your vision and your goals and what you're working on, the more likely it is for those conversations to come into reality, I would say.
Mhm. So we have a great question from Sarah, kind of writing and building on what you shared, Francine. She's asking, what advice do you have for other Kamaina returning home? And the second part of her question, what was the biggest adjustment coming home from the continent and how did you deal with it?
Sure. Those are great questions. So advice for job seekers coming back home. Again, I think I touched on that slightly, make sure that you're reaching out to people within your network. If you have a LinkedIn profile, make sure that you're putting all the information on there. Search the job boards. People often in that industry are more than happy to answer questions from motivated, passionate um, people that really show an effort or a motivation to grow and learn more about the industries they're in. It's just about remaining curious and building your network and just trying to reach out, to people that are experienced in that area, no matter, or have your dream job. People are always happy to answer questions more than you would think, I would say.
So would you, I mean, like, what are some of the platforms? I mean, LinkedIn is probably the biggest one that you could use to reach out to
Mhm.
people. Um, any other platforms you have in mind that might be helpful?
I would say, if there are webinars that you're participating in or networking events, I would always, take the initiative to either reach out to the organizer or ask questions or try to get, somebody's contact information, um, and go that route. It'll really show the effort that you put into it, and make sure when you're reaching out, you're doing the preliminary research into what their background is or what their company does, just so you have done your research and show that effort that you're putting in before
Okay.
prior to out. Yeah.
So I think just on her second question to you was, what was the biggest adjustment coming home from the continent, and how did you deal with it? We had long conversations about how it's different, right?
That's a great question, actually. I would say, the way that I would put it, and I left Honolulu in the year 2000. I would say coming back after having worked for a Japanese company in New York City, I would say a slower pace of life. People seem to be a little more laid back at times. And I think everybody, we all have our unique work styles and our unique ways of communicating, but it's just about adjusting and understanding and having empathy and understanding the different situations or experience levels that people have,
Mhm.
and trying to collaborate and work together, in any sense, to create value all around, right? I think it's important to be able to adjust your communication style and the way that you work so that everybody wins in a team setting, I would say.
Okay, I hope we answer your question, Sarah. She has another question for you. Vince, we will get to your question later, but I think this is a good segue into the question I have for you, and that rides on Sarah's question, third question actually. So, when I first met you, you were at KHON2, and then one day you're like, "Hey, Ellen, I have this great opportunity. I have no idea what is it gonna be, but I have a lot of power to shape it." Right? That's what I remembered. So your new role at NMG was kind of created for you, and of course, taking into consideration all the skill sets and expertise you have. Can you share why and how you were brought on to the organization? Was it because of the foresight of course, Jason and his team?
Sure. And this is really interesting. It's this is how I initially met Joe Bach, who's a partner and GM of Hawaii at NMG Network. I was living at Yacht Harbor Tower at the time, and it's right on that parade routes, right? So like you look off the balcony and you can see all the parades that go by near Magic Island. And one day I was looking over and I saw all these rainbow flags, and I was like, wait a minute, is it Pride here in Hawaii? Because I've been gone for so long, I didn't even realize that we had a Pride celebration or parade in Hawaii, and I was confused because I had no idea when it was or who was behind it. And so I went downstairs and I was like, oh, okay, you know, it's a lot smaller than you know, obviously New York or San Francisco or LA, and I did my research online, and I just went, you know, showed up at a community meeting, which was open, and the first thing the executive director at that time said was that, you know, the Hawaii LGBT Legacy Foundation, Honolulu Pride, is 100% volunteer-based organization. And there were a ton of people in that room. Everyone was kind of like, had these complaints. And as soon, you know, I had a list of mine, but as soon as Jim stated those words, I said, you know what, like, he just said that everyone's a volunteer. I need to start volunteering. You know, I need to start volunteering. I never felt comfortable being open. I didn't grow up with like any GSAs or anything in high school. So it was really important for me to kind of help and volunteer my time. And through that, I was helping with the marketing committee for Pride. And there I met Joe Bach. And I think after their first year or so, I would say, he asked me for a cup of coffee, or to meet with him for a cup of coffee. And I totally thought it was a Pride thing or something. And then he told me about Nella Media Group acquiring and expanding their business offerings and getting into the video and linear television distribution and content production area. And he said, you know, I'd love it if you met our founder, Jason. And so, yeah, I think shortly after that, I met with Jason. He had a sketchbook of his vision, and I got it right away. I mean, you know, even the background on that is really cool. We were talking about Sony. He actually worked in the same building as me. It was like 550 Madison Avenue, but he was on the music side. So yeah, it was just the stars aligned, and somehow, you know, the rest is history.
Now the stars align because you gave up some of your personal time to do good for, well, a cause that you believe in, right? In a way.
I'm a big believer of giving back and serving the community, because I mean, this is proof right here, right? That like that by following your passion and just being your authentic self and giving back, like your give back efforts come back and, like, you know, serve your passions. Like that's exactly how you build your network and align your, you know, your core values with the work that you do in your everyday life, I would say.
Yeah, I think, I love what you just shared, and I think it kind of answers Sarah's question, because she was asking, do you feel like you had to adjust your personal and professional goals or dream job once you decided to make Hawaii your home base? It seems like you created it with NMG in a way.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And you know, I'm so grateful for, you know, everything aligning as it has. You know, it's definitely taken a lot of hard work, um, a lot of challenges, finding new solutions, building something, you know, pretty much from the ground up together in a collaborative environment. It's been amazing. It's been amazing.
What are some of the challenges you face though? Because you are bringing in something really new that, right, that NMG didn't have at that time. Um,
Well, there's different layers to that. Again, you know, the acquisition, it was a, you know, the visitor video model had the distribution platform in, I would say, approximately 85% of all hotel in-room televisions across the state. However, you know, once I joined the team as network strategy director, I was you know, like initially business development, digital strategy. But again, like as a strategy director and any position, you know, you have to be able to be flexible to serve the needs of the team and find solutions and be a team player. So, you know, I would describe my role as being somewhat of a, I always say this, like a dot connector. I wear a lot of different hats, but like literally taking the time and determination, right, to dissect the business from soup to nuts. So literally you know, going into server rooms and realizing the equipment was not up to date, or you know, it's reached its end of life. And so really dissecting that business model, creating, you know, new operating procedures, and looking at new technologies to actually future proof, right, the business. So like looking internally and at external factors to find opportunities.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was maybe a couple of days after you started at your new role, I visited you in the office and you had this screen or something open with all these different platforms. You were trying to integrate all of them. And I was telling you, Francine, I think this is insane. I don't, I don't think this is going to work. I'm glad you pulled it off, but you know, let's, you know, I think another question that I had for you is, I mean, one of the first impressions you gave me was, oh, this person is so curious, because you ask a lot of questions, and I know you're you're really good at, you know, kind of researching and, you know, finding the answers. So would you say that that's a secret to identifying new business growth opportunities? Because it's some, I think that's kind of like in your wheelhouse, right?
Definitely. I think that's one of, like, in a broader sense, it's always, you know, served me in the most amazing way to ask questions and stay curious. Because, you know, through your experiences, through asking those questions, by doing all that research, just by talking to people in different industries, um, that's how you understand and gain knowledge and perspective. Um, I don't know if you actually, I have this book. I was going to say it for a different question.
Oh my gosh.
Pound book. I had no background of engineering or the cable industry, and I picked it up and I was like, can I order this book because I need to know everything? And so, you know, it's things like this, just, you know, keep asking questions. And if, you know, you're not, we're only human, we can't possibly know everything. So it's just dissecting it one piece at a time.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Let's see. We have a couple of good questions that just came in. Let me start. I think Michael's question is pretty aligned with what we're talking right now. Vince Hunter will get back to you. So Michael's asking, when he started in technology, he always heard that we can't hire you until you have more experience, which was frustrating. So he was forced to start his own team, which has worked out really well. So now he belongs to a small team of engineers in Honolulu, and they want to continue to diversify our people, and they want to work with fresh local talent. Can you, Francine, recommend a way to connect with local digital creatives aside from LinkedIn, talent hire sites, etc.?
So I would, with local digital creatives, in
Mm-hmm.
the sense of IT networking or digital strategy. I think at, you know, if we're talking about media or digital strategy based in media, um, you know, there's always a digital strategist available as a go-to resource if it's more on the strategy media side. You know, I know Hawaii News Now and KHON2 have usually have a digital lead in those departments. If you're getting on the more technical side, I would say going to um, industry events. I know there's a few IT companies in town. It was a bit challenging trying to find a pool, but they are out there. Um, I typically just, my go-to would be LinkedIn and connecting with IAB groups and things like that.
Sure. I think Michael, just to, you know, kind of add to Francine's, you know, kind of tips, you could always reach out to HTDC. I mean, that's what we're here for, you know, to connect people. Again, I'm not sure what you mean by digital creatives, but we have people in all forms of technology jobs and technology adjacent positions. So reach out to us and we can see how we can, you know, kind of pull you into the community if you're not already, you know, kind of growing roots here. So yeah, just feel free to reach out to us and we can help you.
And definitely if it's on content content production side or digital strategy, you can always reach out to us as well at NMG Network. I'd be happy to
Connect.
discuss for, and connect.
Yeah. It's cool. So I think I want to go on to Hunter's question, and it's similar to the questions that I had, which was how is technology changing the media industry? And as what Hunter's also asking, since people consume entertainment, the way they consume entertainment is always changing. How do you stay on the forefront of things?
Sure. It's a continuous form of staying curious and passionate. I think for me, when you align your passions with the work that you do, it's never a chore. So I always stay on top of industry news, the trades, Digiday, just the regular media trades that you can subscribe to that come right into your inbox, so you can go through them daily. The reporting that comes out through a lot of these research company, McKinsey, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Bain, they all have experts in different industries. So just staying on top of that type of information, seeing what's happening in the competitive environment. We all, notice the emergence of new OTT platforms, apps, SVOD options for media consumption. Nowadays when somebody tells you about a binge-worthy show, the first question is typically like, wait, what platform is that on? Is that on Netflix, Hulu? So, you're seeing industry data, you're staying on top of trends in that sense. And I think also what's helpful is having conversations, again, going back to having that human connection and talking to even kids, right? Kids are in Gen Z, and you need to stay abreast of like what they're tuned into, what are they watching, what's the new social platforms. So yeah.
Different sources from the professional sources of information to people around you. So how is technology changing the media industry? Just is and we can situate it within the context of your role in NMG Network.
Sure. So it's really interesting because, with COVID and the whole last year, it's like the growth trajectory, right? Especially in the luxury and entertainment space, exponentially growing, new channels, but being mainly, a large part of our business was in the hospitality and luxury areas with retail, in-flight, and hotel. It really gave us an opportunity to kind of like pause and reset. We also do events and concerts. So, this really gave us the opportunity to dive in to what was always on the list, was like these OTT channels. What are we doing for, future proofing our business? And, it's OTT, it's having these different modes of distribution and putting into place during that time, it was a huge undertaking, but really figuring out the delivery model and using cloud-based systems so that we can better manage, deliver, collaborate with teams anywhere they might be, right, across departments. So like really understanding like the production side of it. How do cloud-based technologies automate workflows across different departments, and ease of use, right? Technology enables people to work faster and more collaboratively, but what is that tech stack that you're putting together? How are you utilizing those tools to create maximum efficiency and delivery and your own workflow? So I would say in that sense, you do see a lot of new emerging technologies on the back end that enable automation. But again, like we just discussed, the consumer facing side, you have so many different options for how you consume entertainment. If we're talking about trends, I think there's a growing trend, obviously, for personalization and choice when it comes to consuming media.
So what are your again, I just want to spice it up a little bit. What are your thoughts on Hawaii's media and editorial companies leveraging technology? Do you think they're maximizing the potential of technology?
I honestly, I can't speak on behalf of all companies in Hawaii. But I do know the topic of leveraging technology in a broad sense has definitely been accelerated, right, for many across the board,
Mhm.
especially within the last year of the pandemic. So actually, one of my neighbors here in my apartment building, he owns an IT company, and we were just in the elevator together, and he mentioned how his business was so incredibly busy during the pandemic with a huge surge of remote workers, and obviously that requires a huge demand for his services, and that hasn't slowed at all. So again, I do believe that especially over the last year, a lot of media companies and companies across the board have adopted new technologies to enable people to collaborate better. But
Mhm.
yeah, I guess it really depends on which type of media we're discussing.
Mhm. For NMG Network, I mean, if you would put a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate you guys in terms of leveraging technology for the industry?
Oh, well, definitely,
10?
definitely have some unannounced projects in the works, but we do have some exciting new things coming on. We're not, we're definitely not a technology company, but we utilize new technologies to more efficiently deliver our content. So I would say currently maybe at a 7, just because right now we're in this phase of um, building our tech stack and announcing our new partnerships. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get there.
I'm sure. So Vince actually has a question. Going back to Vince's question, do you see a future for augmented and virtual reality technologies in okay, he says education, media and entertainment is probably up your alley.
uh, VR.
Yeah, VR and AR.
Oh, I personally am a huge fan. I have the Oculus Quest 2, and it is, if people in the audience, if you haven't tried being in an Oculus Quest 2, I would highly recommend it. The experiences are incredible. It's fully immersive. It seriously feels like you're in a different world. And I think there are a lot of psychological benefits to it. I know there's been a lot of research studies in the medical field. I also have this app in there called Trip, which is kind of like a meditation breathing app. It's really awesome. I think in terms of like media and entertainment, I've watched documentaries and it really feels as though you're there in a completely immersive experience. And AR, I've been, I love this stuff. I mean, I remember going to E3 years back and just seeing the new products they come out with AR and interactive experiences. And so I believe it's a huge growing area of opportunity.
So you do, I mean, it's probably going to converge and collide, just not yet. Probably in the next couple of years, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I know you're probably one of the most hardworking people I know, because I know you do a lot. So besides, your day job, doing all the amazing things you do for the NMG network, I know you also serve as a consultant for a lot of other tech projects. Are you able to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So like, I'm the kind of person that's always, as you mentioned, asking questions. And if I'm unsure about something, because I definitely don't have a hands-on IT or engineering background, but pretty much, it's been going through handbooks as these or taking certification courses with Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud, and really diving in. I know, time management is one thing, but if it's your passion and you're really into it, um, I think it doesn't feel as though it's so much of a chore. So in terms of working with different partners on site, in terms of upgrading new equipment or communicating workflow and new models to engineers, I think I've learned to speak the same language essentially. Yeah, and like anything, if you put the work into it, I think anything's possible. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to dive into something and learn a new skill, especially this past year. I know I,
Mhm.
I took a course with the Purple Maya, and I built an app. It was an amazing, amazing free course that was offered online. So there are so many resources, and by going through the process and being passionate about it, or just talking to people, that's how you again build your network, and people come to you and ask you for help, just in the same way I would ask you, about crypto and everything else that we've been discussing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I learn a lot talking to you all the time because you're always on some new, exciting, fresh tech project. So, I want to shift gears a little bit because you do a lot of great work. Again, I don't know how you manage your time, but you're also the chair on the board of the Hawaii LGBTQ Legacy Foundation, right? And I know it's Pride Month. It's just that we don't celebrate Pride here in Hawaii in June. So, do you just want to share with the audience maybe what this Legacy Foundation is about, and why are we celebrating in October and not now, like the rest of the U.S.?
So, so that's although our tentpole events such as so under the Hawaii LGBT Legacy Foundation umbrella, our largest project that we celebrate annually is Honolulu Pride. So although Honolulu Pride, the parade and festival, take place in the third week of October. October we set as Pride Month here, so we're not competing with a lot of mainland prides. And in terms of
Mm,
ability for locals, the it's a shoulder season, right? So you have peak travel periods, expensive hotel rooms, like people from the outer islands might not be able to participate. So I think in that sense, it's great to have our pride in October. Also, the weather is great year round. Also, October is LGBTQ History Month. It's also
mm,
Coming Out Day and Spirit Day. And so there's a lot of significant dates, and the whole month basically is Pride. But this year, and last year too, we're really focusing on Pride 365. Definitely keeping a consistent visibility and community, and being a resource all year round. And so, for example, I was at Kauai Pride a few weeks ago. It was amazing. It was their second annual Pride. Um, Very family friendly. And this weekend we are doing a Honolulu Pride. Uh, what are we calling it? A tea party, a tea dance, and we're going and we're sailing from 5 p.m. on Saturday. It's a 3-hour sunset cruise, and then it's a fun. That one's a fundraiser. We'll have music, refreshments, entertainment, and then on Sunday we are supporting the Domestic Violence Abuse Center, and we have partners like Public Pet, and it's going to be an amazing event. I think tickets actually sold out within 24 hours, but
oh
that
wow.
fundraiser is going to be at the Encore on
Hmm.
Sunday. So we also have Rainbow Town Hall panels, which are virtual Zoom events. We did one with HIV/AIDS. We partner with the HHRC, Health and Harm Reduction Center, um, and a lot of other organizations to really discuss health and wellness and pertinent topics
Mm-hmm.
throughout the
Yeah.
year. So
Great. I mean, so now I know why it's in October and not during June. Makes a lot of sense, from a strategic planning perspective and getting people to participate. Nathan left a really good question in Q&A. He's asking you, Francine, so from your work in the nonprofit world, how do you see technology changing how nonprofits work and how they serve their communities? And maybe to add on to that, it's how is the foundation leveraging technology?
so that's I would say nonprofits operate on lean budget. Well, I mean, ours is 100% volunteer-based organization with a working board. So, of incredibly talented people and smart and amazing and hardworking. And so, it's amazing that we're able to pull off events that have grown to be this large with 100% volunteer committees. And it's technology. I mean, our website redesign is has been on our priority list for 2 or 3 years now, but we just sometimes don't have the manpower or the funding or the resources to be able to invest in there because we're serving the community, right? We're always planning these events, or we're doing marketing or merch or fundraising or development and partnerships. And so I think it's a huge need. I know I get a bunch of emails. I receive a lot of emails from different technology vendors, but of course, it's such a huge need. We have access to like a CRM system. What we'd like to do is disseminate all the data and be able to segment and share the data with our partner nonprofits in this space, so we can, better analyze and create programs to better serve our needs of the community. But that's definitely a need
Mm-hmm.
or the area for us.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a constant struggle, right, for a lot of nonprofits, in terms of how they use technology. There are some technology platforms out there that are cheaper, but if you need it to be customized, that's where the costs come in and so on. So, well, we hope we answered your question, Nathan. Feel free to leave more questions if you have regarding that. We have a couple of minutes left, so I welcome more questions in the Q&A function, but I really wanted to ask you this, Francine, because I think I'll get a really interesting response. You have a lot of questions and you always ask questions. So if you could have coffee with anyone who's either dead or alive to ask all the questions you have, who would it be?
I probably have two, which are like not very similar at all. I would say like Oprah, because she's Oprah and amazing and an inspiration. And then on the other side, I would probably say Elon Musk, who I have mixed feelings about. But I mean, I just have so many questions. I think those two would be at the top of my list.
If you could only ask Oprah one question because you have like 5,000, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
We can come back to it.
Maybe like what inspires her? What does she get excited about every morning when she gets out of bed? What keeps her up at night? I don't know, things like that.
There's just like 3 questions already.
Oh my
Say.
gosh. Run on sentence, I guess.
So, I mean, Francine, to me, at least as your friend, I see you as a very successful person. Like I said, extremely curious, which is great, and super hardworking. What would you attribute your success to? Preparation or luck? Or
Oh, I would say it's definitely a combination of both. Again, I feel very blessed that, as we just discussed, things typically fall into place. But I think that, the legwork and the hard work and the connections that you make, it really comes from a place of authenticity and curiosity and being able to talk to people and ask questions. Also, I would say attributing success definitely starts with education, right? So access to education and putting the hard work in, right? Making sure that you're making the most out of your experiences. Even starting your career, I think a lot of people, I wouldn't ever do anything that I would never ask someone to do something that I wasn't willing to do myself,
Mhm.
because it's all the process of building your experience and know-how.
Mhm. So, when you look at the younger generation, is there a skill set or, attribute that you think is important for them to develop? Again, I don't know how many of the people in the audience are, coming off college right now, but what would be your thoughts on that?
Sure. I would say, throughout life, like really staying true to your core values. I think you need to stay true to your values and align yourself with any opportunities that you may come across. Always, make sure you're asking the right questions and stay curious, right? Like when you're talking to people or going for interviews, you want to make sure it's a fit for both parties and it aligns with both sides so you
Mhm.
can have a successful and collaborative environment, because you spend so much of your time at work. Why waste your time doing something and that's not adding value to yourself or others?
It's
Yeah.
great. It's a great point. What's next for you? Now that we're coming out of the pandemic.
What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
A lot of exciting things in store, that we've had the time to work on. So more to come on that. I'm not privy to say right now, but a lot of new announcements on the NMG side. Exciting stuff. So coming soon, in terms of distribution and partnerships and new markets.
Yeah,
I'm
of
going to leave it at that right now.
course.
And
I mean, on the personal side, are you traveling now that we're opening up? Because I know you travel like all the time. Pre-pandemic.
pre-pandemic, yeah. The plan is to very soon. Yeah, definitely travel. And then on the Pride side, we're going full force. We're continuing to grow and expand. We're going to keep all of the virtual events that we did, and because we're in Tier 4 and we're, a First Amendment parade, we were actually right before COVID in 2019. Um, we became the largest parade in the state, and what I
Oh,
like to say
wow.
is colorful. So
How many
we
people did
so
you?
for over 5,000 participants and
Wow.
over 30,000 spectators.
Oh,
And so
wow.
last year we had to pause, but we did do the virtual tiny float parade and the half-hour show. So all in all, technology enabled us to connect to even a bigger audience. So we'll continue that,
This
those
year.
partnerships, and then the
Mhm.
plan is to hold a parade. I mean, knock on wood, unless following CDC guidelines.
Yep.
But yeah, so
You have a very busy, second half of the year, for you. So before we end, the session, I want to ask you the same question I ask every guest of mine. Give us one word you would like to leave the audience with today, and why?
okay, so action. I would say action, right? And I would say why action is because we all have the ability to create our own realities in fulfilling our goals, whatever that may be. And, you can have a ton of ideas, but without taking that first step, without doing anything to achieve those ideas or having a strategy or a plan in place to at least take one step to get there, um, means nothing, right? So, being intentional with your actions, I would say, you know, be intentional and act with kindness to others. spread that. And yeah, I know we're almost out of time. I could go on and on about this. I don't know if you have
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, so take action. I completely agree with you. A lot of people have ideas, but nothing comes to fruition if they don't take action.